Welcome back to the program. Well, we saw some pretty disturbing allegations raised last night on the Four Corners program on the ABC from a doctor who had been working at the Manus Island Detention Centre about conditions there, about the lack of medical supplies, about the impact on children and women in particular. This has led today to one government backbencher at least calling for the Manus Island Detention Centre to be shut down. Labor Senator Doug Cameron had been supporting offshore processing in Nauru and Manus Island. I spoke to him though a little earlier this afternoon. Doug Cameron, thanks for your time. Simple question. Do you think Australia should be sending women and children to a place like Manus Island to have their asylum claims processed?
Absolutely not. I think the women and children should be removed from there immediately. I'm calling on the Minister to do that as of today.
The Minister says this is an operational decision for the department. Is that good enough?
The Minister can certainly direct the department, and I think the government's got a responsibility, consistent with the expert panel report, not to have women and children in these conditions.
What is it about the conditions that concerns you the most?
Well, a range of issues, the health issues, the mosquito issue, malaria problems, not having access to emergency medical treatment for 24 hours if it's serious, no medical equipment of any high standard being there. This is not good. The accommodation generally, the electrical problems, this is not good. This is not treating asylum seekers as human beings.
What about adult males? If it's that bad, should they be sent there either?
I don't think they should be. I think Manus Island has been a mistake. I think Manus Island is not appropriate. It's a penal provision against people seeking refuge, and I don't think that's appropriate.
So it should be shut down immediately, those asylum seekers?
I don't think we should spend any more money on Manus Island. I think we have to look at more onshore processing, get the onshore processing process working well.
What about Nauru?
Well, Nauru, I think, by doing these things one out is not consistent, I think, with the overall position the expert panel put. I support the expert panel's proposition that there has to be a regional framework. And I think we need to spend more money looking at how we can assist other nations develop a proper regional framework.
But in the absence of that and a regional agreement, are you saying we should not be doing these one-off things like Nauru?
I don't think it's consistent with the overall position that the expert panel developed. The expert panel developed an overall networked position, and I don't think this is consistent with it. Because
your own position on this has evolved over the years, from being opposed to offshore processing to then accepting the reality of some offshore processing. Now are you saying we need to go back to onshore processing until there is some sort of regional agreement? I think offshore processing can work if it's part of a regional framework. It's worked in the past, and I think that's the important point. That's one of the first points that the expert panel said. There has to be a regional framework, there has to be regional cooperation, there has to be international cooperation. I think we need to put more effort, more money into doing that. And otherwise, with the situation in Sri Lanka for Tamils, it's terrible. The situation in Afghanistan will not improve when the troops are removed. So I think we've got regional problems of poverty, regional problems of terrorism, regional problems that are going to mean people will be fleeing for their lives. Just to be clear though, until that regional cooperation is there, we should shut down Nauru and Manus Island, you're saying?
Yeah, certainly Nauru. I don't think that's a fair and reasonable approach in Nauru. Nauru is not appropriate.
Manus Island and Nauru, you're saying both should be shut down?
Sorry, Manus Island certainly should be shut down. Nauru, I think we can improve the conditions in Nauru. I think we can improve them on the basis of being more open, more transparent about what's happening there, allowing people into the community. That's what, as I understand, the Nauruan government is saying they want to do, and that was part of the expert panel's approach, that people should be able to integrate into the local community.
The government says it has had some success with Sri Lanka, sending people back there not long after they arrived, after a preliminary interview. Are they getting their rights, these asylum seekers seeing their rights satisfied?
I think only time will tell. My understanding of Sri Lanka from people who have been there and people who are looking at it is that it's not a very pleasant place if you're a Tamil and you've been involved in the Tamil political approach, and that's not good for individuals. So people do have, in my view, legitimate refugee status coming out of Sri Lanka. Others are doing it for economic reasons. If it's economic reasons, they should be returned. But if they are genuinely in fear of their lives or their families, then we need to treat that seriously.
Finally, on the budget, Doug Cameron, the Prime Minister says all options are back on the table. What options should be considered to plug some of these revenue problems?
Well, I'm happy that the issue of hypothecated levy or hypothecated tax should be on the table. I've argued that for a long period of time now. I think the Australian public would, if they know what the money is being spent for and it's a genuine social improvement, the public will support it. I think the issue of tax manipulation through trusts has to be on the table, and I think that's an issue the federal government needs to take a look at. I think the MRRT, after the hearing yesterday, it's clear there are some design problems with the MRRT. I can understand why it was done in the political situation it was, but in hindsight, there are significant problems with it, and we should deal with that. We shouldn't walk away from it. We should make sure that the mining companies are paying an appropriate tax to the community in this country.
Even though the mining boom appears to be coming off?
Look, prices are still very high. We seem to think that they've got to have super profits all the time. Prices are still high in the mineral sector. Maybe coal's not as high, but iron ore is still historically high, and we are not getting much from that.
The big profit today was ANZ, a half-yearly profit of $3.2 billion.
Yeah.
Should the banks be taxed more?
Oh, look, the banks are obviously an area that we should look in terms of, we really have a problem in terms of the tax base. And remember, we are the 5th lowest taxing country in the OECD, and if we raised our tax take by 0.7%, we would still be the lowest taxing country, and we would raise $14 billion.
Is that going to be a break, though, on the economy at a time when there are clearly nerves out there, if you're going to be increasing taxes on miners, on banks, and indeed on income earners as well?
I don't think so. I think, there's a general view amongst the Australian public that they want good services. And if we are a low taxing country by OECD standards, we should lift that tax base. My view is that if you want Scandinavian type social benefits, then you have to be paid. They have to be paid for. And that's a debate that we should have within the Labour Party. That's a debate that we should have in the public.
Senator Doug Cameron, thank you.
Thank you.